The Kybalion was written in 1908 by the three initiates, and it teaches Hermetic philosophy. And Hermetic philosophy comes from Hermes Trismegistus, who was known as the fount of wisdom. And who were the three initiates? Well, it was actually a pen name for the real author, who was William Walker Atkinson. And William Walker Atkinson wrote over 100 books during his lifetime, and he was known as one of the founding fathers of the law of attraction, and also as one of the masters of self-development, positive thinking, and the New Thought movement. And in the book The Kybalion, there are 7 natural laws, and he who understands them has the temple of wisdom open to him. And we're going to get straight into the book. Wherefore the footsteps of the master, the ears of those ready for his teachings wide open. And again, when the ears of the student are ready to hear, then cometh the lips to fill them with wisdom. It's not for everybody, but he who is ready, the information will come to him naturally. The Hermetic philosophy, the lips of wisdom are closed, except to the ears of understanding. The Kybalion. From old Egypt have come the fundamental esoteric and occult teachings, which have so strongly influenced the philosophies of all races, nations, and peoples for several thousand years. Egypt, the home of the pyramids, and the Sphinx was a birthplace of the hidden wisdom and mystic teachings. From her secret doctrine, all nations have borrowed. So in ancient Egypt, there was a thing called mystery schools. And a lot of these teachings have come from old ancient Egypt and have been passed through the nations all around the globe today. But among these great masters of ancient Egypt, there once dwelt one of the masters hailed as the master of masters. This man, if man indeed he was, dwelt in Egypt in the earliest days. He was known as Hermes Trismegistus. He was the father of the occult wisdom, the founder of astrology, and the discoverer of alchemy. What is occult wisdom? Occult wisdom is beyond the senses. It's beyond what we can physically see. It's all the mysterious teachings, right? Very, very powerful stuff. As the years rolled by after his passing from the plane of life, tradition recording that he lived 300 years in the flesh, the Egyptians deified Hermes, deified is turning him into a god, and made him one of their gods under the name Thoth. Years after, the people of ancient Greece also made him one of their many gods, calling him Hermes, the god of wisdom. The Egyptians revered his memory for many centuries, yes, tens of centuries, calling him the scribe of gods, and bestowing upon him distinctively his ancient title Trismegistus, which means the thrice, the great, the greatest great, etc. In all the ancient lands, the name Hermes Trismegistus was revered, the name being synonymous with the fount of wisdom. Even to this day, we use the term Hermetic in the sense of secret, sealed so that nothing can escape, etc. And this by reason of fact that the followers of Hermes always observed the principle of secrecy in their teaching. So again, Hermes Trismegistus was the founder, was the fount of wisdom. He was the one who developed the Hermetic philosophy. From him, all the students learnt their lessons. But there were a few faithful souls who kept alive the flame, tending to it carefully and not allowing its light to become extinguished. And thanks to these staunch hearts and fearless minds, we have the truth still with us. And again, a lot of the time with these mysterious teachings, these mystery schools, this knowledge was passed from teacher to student, from lip to ear, and this happened, and if it didn't, the flame would have dissipated and disappeared. But it is not found in books to any great extent. It has been passed along from master to student, from initiate to hierophant, from lip to ear. When it was written down at all, meaning was veiled in terms of alchemy and astrology, so that those possessing the key could read it aright. So again, a lot of these mysterious teachings were written in code word, in code language, so that not everybody could understand them. Very powerful stuff. This was made necessary in order to avoid the persecutions of the theologians of the Middle Ages who fought the secret doctrine with their fire and sword, stake, giblet, and cross. Even to this day, there will still be found a few reliable books on the Hermetic philosophy, although there are countless references to it in many books written on various phases of occultism. And yet, the Hermetic philosophy is the only master key which will open all the doors to the occult teachings. So Hermetic philosophy is going to teach you all the teachings beyond the physical senses. It's going to teach you all the mysterious teachings. And a lot of the time, the theologians, they would burn these people at the stake because if they were teaching these teachings. These teachings were so abstract and so out there that most people couldn't comprehend them, and people would get, hanged. They would get killed by teaching these teachings. Very powerful stuff. The 7 Hermetic Principles. The principles of truth are 7. He who knows these understandingly possesses the magic key before whose touch all the doors of the temple fly open. The Kybalion. The 7 Hermetic Principles upon which the entire Hermetic philosophy is based are as follows. The principle of mentalism, the principle of correspondence, the principle of vibration, the principle of polarity, the principle of rhythm, the principle of cause and effect, the principle of gender. Mental transmutation. Mind, as well as metals and elements, may be transmuted from state to state, degree to degree, condition to condition, from pole to pole, vibration to vibration. True Hermetic transmutation is a mental art, the Kybalion. Transmutation is a term usually employed to designate the ancient art of the transmutation of metals, particularly of the base metals into gold. The word transmute means to change from one nature, form, or substance into another, to transform. And accordingly, mental transmutation means the art of changing and transforming mental states, forms, and conditions into others. So if you may see that mental transmutation is the art of mental chemistry. If you like the term, a form of practical mystic psychology. This is so important because mental transmutation is the ability to change your mind, forms, and conditions into other forms, conditions. Very, very powerful stuff, mental transmutation. The first of the 7 Hermetic principles is a principle of mentalism, the axiom of which the all is mind, the universe is mental, which means that the underlying reality of the universe is mind, and the universe itself is mental, that is, existing in the mind of the all. We shall consider this principle in succeeding lessons, but let us see the effect of this principle if it assumed to be true. Very, very powerful stuff. Listen here. If the universe is mental in its nature, then mental transmutation must be the art of changing the conditions of the universe along the lines of matter, force, and mind. So mental transmutation is one of the founding keys in order to change the conditions and environment around you. Very powerful stuff, because if the universe is made of mind, which is the first belief of this Kybalion, of this Hermetic philosophy, that means through the mind we can change the universe around us. The all. Under and back of the universe of time, space, and change is ever to be found the substantial reality, the fundamental truth, the Kybalion. Substance means that which underlies all outward manifestations, the essence, the essential reality, the thing itself, etc. Substantial means actually existing, being the essence, element, being real, etc. Reality means the state of being real, true, enduring, valid, fixed, permanent, actual, etc. Under, behind all outward appearance or manifestations, there must always be a substantial reality. This is the law. Beyond this physical realm that you can see, this material realm that you can see right now in the physical senses, there is this substantial reality that people believed underlied everything. And this substantial reality is the all. Very powerful stuff. All thinkers in all lands and in all times have assumed the necessity for postulating the existence of this substantial reality. All philosophies worthy of name have been based upon this thought. Men have given to this substantial reality many names. Some have called it by the term deity. Under many titles could be God. Others have called it the infinite and eternal energy. Others have tried to call it matter, but all have acknowledged its existence. It is self-evident, it needs no argument. So these thinkers, the greatest thinkers of all time, believed there was this substantial reality beyond the physical realm that we can see, beyond this material realm that we see. In these lessons, we have followed the example of some of the world's greatest thinkers, both ancient and modern, the Hermetic masters, and have called this underlying power, this substantial reality, by the Hermetic name, the All, which term we consider the most comprehensive of the many terms applied by man to that which transcends names and terms. So this substantial reality that everyone spoke about, the Hermeticists called it the All because this transcended every other name possible. What is there higher than matter or energy that we know to be existent in the universe? Life and mind. Life and mind in all their varying degrees of unfoldment. Then you ask, do you mean to tell us that the all is life and mind? Yes and no is our answer. If you mean life and mind as we petty mortals know them, we say no. The all is not that. But what kind of life and mind do you mean? You ask. The answer is living mind, as far above that which mortals know by those words. As life and mind are higher than mechanical forces or matter, infinite living mind as compared to finite life and mind. We mean that which the illumined souls, these people that were enlightened beings, mean when they reverently pronounce the word spirit. The all is infinite living mind, the illumined call it spirit. So again, the Hermetic philosophy teaches that the all is a substantial reality. This transcends everything else in the universe. But these transcendent souls, these illumined people, these enlightened beings, actually call it spirit. This is really important to understand. So beyond the physical senses, beyond what you can see in this world right now, there is the all, which is also known as spirit. And now we move on to the first principle, the mental universe. The universe is mental, held in the mind of the all, the Kybalion. Very powerful. The all is spirit. But what is spirit? This question cannot be answered for the reason that its definition is practically that of the all, which cannot be explained or defined. You cannot give a name to the spirit, to the all. Spirit is simply a name that men have given to the highest conception of infinite living mind. It means the real essence, it means the living mind, as much superior to life and mind as we know them, as the latter are superior to the mechanical energy and matter. Spirit transcends our understanding. This is important to understand. Spirit, the all, it transcends our understanding. It's beyond comprehension. And we use the term merely that we may think or speak of the all. For the purpose of thought and understanding, we are justified in thinking of spirit as infinite living mind, at the same time acknowledging that we cannot fully understand it. We must either do this or stop thinking of the matter at all. So again, the fundamental belief is that the all is this living mind, which is spirit. The all can create in no other way except mentally. So this spirit, this all, again, the only way it can manifest is mentally. Without either using material, and there is none to use, or else reproducing itself, which is also impossible, there is no escape from this conclusion of the reason, which, as we have said, agrees to the highest teaching of the Illumined. The Illumined are, again, these are the people, the enlightened beings. They all believe the same thing. The universe, the all, is a mental construct, and the all is what manifests things, right? Just as you, student, may create a universe out of your own mentality, so does the all create universes out of its own mentality. But your universe is a mental creation of the finite mind, whereas the all is the creation of the infinite. Again, the all, the spirit, creates the universe, and you are a finite mind within this universe, and you create your own universes, right? There are two similar in kind, but indefinitely different in degrees. We shall examine more closely into the process of creation and manifestation as we proceed. But this is the point to fix in your minds at this stage. The universe and all it contains is a mental creation of the all. Verily indeed, all is mind. So again, the universe and everything within the universe is a creation of the all. The all creates in its infinite mind countless universes which exist for eons of time, and yet to the all, the creation, development, decline, and death of a million universes is as the time of a twinkling of an eye, the Kybalion. The infinite mind of the all is the womb of the universe, the Kybalion. The Hermetic teachings does not imply a real duality. The all is one, the two aspects are merely aspects of manifestation. So what they're saying here is the all, the spirit, this substantial reality, there is no such thing as duality between the all, the spirit, and yourself, or any physical form, or anything else in the universe. They are all just different degrees of manifestation. This is so powerful. I love this. Death is not real, even in the relative sense. It is but birth to a new life, and you should go on and on and on to higher and still higher planes of life for eons and eons of time. The universe is your home. I love that. And you shall explore its farthest recesses before the end of time. You are dwelling in the infinite mind of the all, and your possibilities and opportunities are infinite both in time and space. I love this. So they believe that we are from this universe. We are part of this universe. The Hermetic philosophy teaches that we are part of this universe, and we don't pass away. We just return to from where we came, and then we go and explore the vastness of this universe, which is great. To take familiar illustrations, we all recognize the fact that matter exists to our senses. We will fare badly if we do not, and yet even our finite minds understand the scientific dictum that there is no such thing as matter from a scientific point of view. That which we call matter is held merely to be an aggregation of atoms, which atoms themselves are merely a grouping of units of force. So again, you're talking, this goes back thousands of years, this Hermetic philosophy, and they believed that everything was just a unit of force. They believed it was energy. That was it. This is what they believed. Oh friends, to mortals, this universe of mentality is very real indeed. It is the only one we can ever know, though we rise from plane to plane, higher and higher in it. To know it otherwise, by actual experience, we must be the all itself. Love it. It is the true that the higher we rise in the scale, the nearer to the mind of the Father we reach, the more apparent becomes the illusory nature of finite things, but not until the all finally withdraws us into itself does the vision actually vanish. So what they're saying is we're returning back to the all. We are manifested, but as we rise up in the scale of life, we go through plane, we're actually returning to where we came from. So we need not dwell upon the feature of illusion, rather let us recognize the real nature of the universe, seek to understand its mental laws and endeavor to use them to the best effect in our upward progress through life as we travel from plane to plane of being. So this is what I love, that we can't deny what is. The universe, the all, is spirit, and we are returning to where we came from. But we want to use the laws of the universe to help us rise in this plane of life. While on the plane of matter, we must recognize its phenomena. We may control matter as all masters of higher or lesser degrees do, but we do so by applying the higher forces. In order for us to master this game of life, we rise to higher planes and we control the force in the lower planes. This is what they're saying here. Mastery consists not in abnormal dreams, visions, and fantastic imaginings or living, but in using higher forces against the lower, escaping the pains of the lower planes by vibrating in the higher. So again, mastery consists in rising your vibration, taking yourself up a plane, and by raising yourself up a plane, you control the force in the lower planes, and this is what they're talking about. The Hermetic teachings are to the effect that the all is immanent in, remaining within, inherent, abiding within its universe, and in every part, particle, unit, or combination within the universe. So what they're saying here is the all, the substance spirit, lies within everything. The spirit within you, the spirit within material forms, everything within this universe is made of spirit or the all. In the degree that man realizes the existence of the indwelling spirit immanent within his being, so he will rise in the spiritual scale of life. So to the degree that you have the ability to recognize your spirit within you is going to determine how far you're able to rise in this game of life. This is really, really important. This is what spiritual development means: the recognition, realization, and manifestation of the spirit within us. So again, recognizing you have the spirit within you is going to enable you to raise your vibration and go to a higher plane of life. To remember this last definition, that the spiritual development, it contains the truth of true religion. There are many planes of being, many subplanes of life, many degrees of existence in the universe, and all depend upon the advancement of beings in the scale, of which the scale, the lowest point is the grossest matter, the highest being separated only by the thinnest division from the spirit of the all. And upward and onward along the scale of life, everything is moving, all on the path, whose end is the all. All progress is returning to home, all upward and onwards in spite of all seemingly contradicting appearances. Such is the message of the illumined. So these enlightened beings believe that there are different planes of life. The densest matter is the furthest away from the all. The lightest matter, the most highest plane, is closer to the all. And there's no separation, but the goal in life is to get as high as possible to becoming this illumined person. The Hermetic teachings, regardless of the process of evolution, are that the all, having meditated upon the beginning of creation, having thus established the material foundation of the universe, having thought it into existence, and gradually awakens or rouses from its meditation, and in doing so, starts into manifestation the process of evolution on the material, mental, and spiritual planes successively in order. So the Hermetic teachings is, right, that the all meditated upon the existence of this universe, and then as soon as it awoke from meditation, it started to manifest the form. Thus, the upward movement begins, and all begins to move spiritward. Matter becomes less gross, the units spring into being, the combinations begin to form, life appears and manifests in higher and higher forms, and mind becomes more and more in evidence, the vibrations constantly becoming higher. In short, the entire process of evolution in all of its phases begins and proceeds according to the established laws of this enduring process. What I love about this is they're talking about this spirit, the all, the universe, meditates, and in this veins of meditation, it creates this universe. Then when it rouses from this meditation, what happens is the physical universe is manifested, right? And it also manifests in different planes: the mental, the physical, and the spiritual planes. These different planes are manifested. But then what happens is when it rouses from meditation, everything is returning back to from where it came. We wake, we rise, we manifest, and then through life, all these physical planes are returning to the spirit, to this all, as we raise our vibration. Very powerful. The planes of correspondence. As above, so below, as below, so above. The Kybalion. The great second Hermetic principle embodies the truth that there is a harmony, agreement, and correspondence between the several planes of manifestation, life, and being. The truth is a truth because all that is included in the universe emanates from the same source, and the same laws, principles, characteristics apply to each unit or combination of units of activity, as each manifests its own phenomena upon its own plane. For the purpose of convenience of thought of study, the Hermetic philosophy considers that the universe may be divided into three great classes of phenomena, known as the three great planes, namely the great physical plane, the great mental plane, the great spiritual plane. Right? So again, as above, so below, as below, so above. So this correspondence between all these different planes of life is really important. This is a philosophy. So although there may be different planes or different levels of vibration, different planes of existence, as above, so below, as below, so above. Everything is corresponding, everything is connected to the other. These divisions are more or less artificial and arbitrary. For the truth is that the all of the three divisions are but ascending degrees of the great scale of life, the lowest point of which is the undifferentiated matter, and the highest point is that of spirit. And again, matter, spirit. And moreover, the different planes shade into each other, so that no hard and fast division may be made between the higher phenomena of the physical and the lower of the mental, or between the higher of the mental and the lower of the physical. In short, the three great planes may be regarded as the three great groups of degrees in the life manifestation. everything is connected through each of the different planes because we're all through this vibrational source. Is a plane a place having a dimension, or is it merely a conditional state? We answer no, not a place, nor ordinary dimension of space, and yet more than a state or condition. It may be considered as a state or condition, and yet the state or condition is a degree of dimension. In a scale subject to measurement, somewhat paradoxical, is it not? But let us examine the matter. A dimension, you know, is a measure in a straight line relating to a measure, etc. The ordinary dimension of space are length, breadth, height, or perhaps length, breadth, height, thickness, or circumference. But there is another dimension of created things or measure in a straight line, known to the occultists and to the scientists as well, although the latter have not yet applied the term dimension to it. And this new dimension, which, by the way, is much speculated about, the fourth dimension, is the standard used in determining degrees or planes. So the fourth dimension, so this is very, very powerful stuff. This fourth dimension may be called the dimension of vibration. It is a well-known fact to modern scientists as well as Hermeticists who have embodied the truth in their third Hermetic principle that everything is motion, everything vibrates, nothing rests. From the highest manifestation to the lowest, everything and always vibrate. Not only do they vibrate at different rates of motion, but as in different directions and different manner. The degrees of the rate of vibrations constitute the degrees of measurement of the scale of vibrations. In other words, the degrees of the fourth dimension, and these degrees form what the occultists call planes. The higher the degree of the rate of vibration, the higher the plane, and the higher the rate of the manifestation of life occupying that plane. So as we talk about correspondence, there are multiple different planes of life, right? You have these different levels of planes, right? But these planes, what is a plane? A plane is in the fourth dimension. And what is a fourth dimension? A fourth dimension is known as a rate of vibration. The lowest vibration is that of matter, and the highest vibration is that of spirit, is that of the all. This is really important. The Hermeticists subdivide each of these three great planes into 7 minor planes, and each of these latter are also subdivided into 7 subplanes. All divisions being more or less arbitrary, shading into each other, and adopted merely for convenience of scientific study and thought. The great physical plane and its 7 minor planes is that division of the phenomena of the universe, which includes all that relates to physics, material things, forces, and manifestations. So there is a plane of the physical plane. The 7 minor planes of the great physical plane. These 7 minor physical planes are as follows: the plane of matter A, the plane of matter B, the plane of matter C, the plane of the ethereal substance, the plane of energy A, the plane of energy B, the plane of energy C. There is a plane, there are 3 different planes, there is a physical plane, and there are 7 planes within this physical plane, and there are 7 subplanes within these planes. Very, very cool stuff. The great mental plane comprises those forms of living things known to us in ordinary life, as well as certain other forms not so well known except to the occultists. They are as follows: the plane of the material mind, the plane of the elemental mind A, the plane of the plant mind, the plane of the elemental mind B, the plane of the animal mind, the plane of the elemental mind C, the plane of the human mind. So in this great mental plane, there are 7 planes within these planes, and within these 7 planes, there are 7 subplanes. And what they're saying is, a lot of these planes aren't known to man, but to the occultists they are. If you think about minerals, minerals have movement, they have mind. If you think about plants, plants have movement, they have mind. If you think about animals, they have movement, they have mind. So what they're saying is, these are all different degrees on the great mental plane of life. And most people don't think these things are living, but they are. They have their own mental plane. There are a few advanced souls of our own race who have outstripped the masses and who have passed on to the 6th and 7th subdivision, and some few beings still further on. The man of the 6th subdivision will be the Superman. His of the 7th will be the Overman. So you have the great mental plane. Within these great mental plane, you have the 7 planes. One of those planes is the human mind. In the human mind, you have 7 subplanes, and within these 7 planes, there are a select few people who have made it to the 6th or 7th subdivision, and these people are known as Superman or the Overman. Very powerful. These are the beings who are the most enlightened beings that you'll ever see in the world. Their rate of vibration is absolutely huge. Passing on from the great mental plane to the great spiritual plane, what shall we say? How can we explain these higher states of being, life and mind, to minds as yet unable to grasp and understand the higher subdivision of the plane of the human mind? Yeah? The task is impossible. We can speak only in the most general terms. How may light be described to a man born blind? How sugar to a man who has never tasted anything sweet? How harmony to one born deaf? All that we can say is that the 7 minor planes of the great spiritual plane, each minor plane having its own 7 subdivisions, comprise beings possessing life, mind, and form, as far above that of man of today, as the latter is above the earthworm, mineral, or even certain forms of energy matter. They're saying that most people, If we go back to the great mental plane, we have the human mind. Most people haven't passed the 5th subdivision of the human mind, which means how are they going to be able to even comprehend the great spiritual plane? So it's beyond comprehension for 99.99% of the people within this population. The life of these beings so far transcends ours that we cannot even think of the details of the same. Their minds so far transcend ours that to them, we scarcely seem to think, and our mental processes seem almost akin to material processes, the matter of which their forms are composed is of the highest planes of matter. Nay, some are even said to be clothed in pure energy. What may be said of such beings? Listen to this. On the 7 minor planes of the great spiritual plane exist beings of whom we may speak as angels, archangels, and demigods. So think about this. When we get to the great spiritual plane, we're talking about in the levels of correspondence, when we get to this great spiritual plane, these people are known as angels, archangels, demigods, and their rate of vibration is so high that we're not even going to be able to comprehend this, which is beautiful. As above, so below, as below, so above. All of the 7 Hermetic principles are in full operation on all of the many planes, physical, mental, and spiritual. The principle of mental substance, of course, applies to the planes, for all are held in the mind of the all. The principle of correspondence manifests in all, for there is a correspondence, harmony, and agreement between the several planes. So this is important. As above, so below, as above. Everything is a rate of vibration. That is what they're saying in the 4th dimension. Everything is a rate of vibration. Everything corresponds with everything else because everything is connected to the all. Everything is just a different degree or manifestation of this vibration. Vibration. Nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. The Kybalion. The great 3rd Hermetic principle, the principle of vibration, embodies the truth that motion is manifest in everything in the universe, that nothing rests, everything moves, vibrates, and circles. The Hermetic principles recognized by some of the early Greek philosophers who embodied it in their systems, but then for centuries it was lost sight by the thinkers of outside of the Hermetic ranks. But in the 19th century, physical science rediscovered the truth, and the 20th century scientific discoveries have added additional proof of the correctness and truth of this centuries-old Hermetic doctrine. The Hermetic teachings are that not only everything is constant movement and vibration, but the differences between the various manifestations of the universal power are due entirely to the varying rate and mode of vibrations. Not only this, but that even the all in itself manifests a constant vibration of such an infinite degree of intensity and rapid motion that it can be practically considered at rest. The teachers directing the attention of the students to the fact that even on the physical plane, a rapidly moving object such as the revolving wheel seems to be at rest. The teachings are to the effect that spirit is at one end of the polar vibration, the other pole being certain extreme gross forms of matter. Between 2 poles are millions upon millions of different rates and modes of vibrations. So if you think about dense matter is a low rate of vibration, and the highest rate of vibration looks like it's resting, and this is where the all is, and this is where the spirit is. And if you think about when you look at a person, you say that person is dense. When you look at a person, you go, that person is dense. That is because they are in a low rate of vibration. The more dense you are, the lower your vibration. As you become enlightened, as you become illumined, as you become light, what happens is your rate of vibration rises and it gets you closer to the all, to spirit, to what is. And this is what they're saying. This is very cool stuff. The teachings are that the ethereal substance is a connecting link between the forms of vibratory energy known as matter on the one hand and the energy force on the other. It also that it manifests a degree of vibration in rate and mode entirely of its own. So if you've heard this thing called the ether, you have matter, physical form, and then you have energy, matter, energy, the different rates of vibration. But between matter and energy, there is believed there's this substance called ether, and this ether is at its own rate of vibration. So you have matter, you have energy, between the two is this ether. So what is ether? Again, it is the connecting link between matter and energy. Very powerful stuff. The Hermeticists teach that if the vibrations be continually increased, the object would mount up to the successive states of manifestation and would in turn manifest the various mental stages and then on spiritward until it would finally re-enter the all, which is absolute spirit. So again, if you raise your vibration, and you hear this all over the internet, if you raise your vibration, what will happen is you will return to spirit. Very powerful. Polarity. Everything is dual, everything has poles, everything has its pairs of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but indifferent in degree. Extremes meet, all truths are but half truths, all paradoxes may be reconciled. The Kybalion. The great fourth Hermetic principle, the principle of polarity, embodies a truth that all manifested things have two sides, two aspects, two poles, a pair of opposites, with manifold degrees between the two extremes. So again, polarity, everything has its two opposites. Everything is and isn't at the same time. All truths are but half truths. Every truth is a half false. There are two sides to everything. There is a reverse side to every shield, etc., etc. The Hermetic teachings are to the effect that the difference between things seemingly diametrically opposed to each other is merely a matter of degree. So the difference between one pole and another pole is a matter of degree. What is a degree? It's a rate of vibration. So love, hate, they're just rates of vibration. It teaches that the pairs of opposites may be reconciled and that thesis and antithesis are identical in nature, but different in degree, and that the universe's reconciliation of opposites is affected by a recognition of this principle of polarity. Spirit and matter are but two poles of the same thing, the intermediate planes merely being degrees of vibration. So spirit and matter. So spirit is high rate of vibration, matter is dense rate of vibration. They are literally different rates of vibration, but they are the exact same thing. They're two rates of vibration. It is all a matter of higher and lower vibrations. The very term high and low, which we are compelled to use, are but poles of the same thing. The terms are relative. So with east and west, travel around the world in an eastward direction and you'll reach a point which is called west at your starting point. Love that. And you return from that westward point. Travel far enough north and you'll find yourself traveling south, or vice versa. Can you see how the polarity, everything has its polar opposites? Light and darkness are two poles of the same thing with many degrees between them. Light and darkness, they're just different rates of vibration, right? And just at varying degrees. Good and bad are not absolute. We call one end of the scale good and the other bad, or one end good and the other evil, according to the use of the terms. Again, different parts along the scale. And so it is on the mental plane. Love and hate are generally regarded as being things diametrically opposed to each other, entirely different, unreconcilable. But we apply the principle of polarity, we find there is no such thing as absolute love or absolute hate, as distinguished from each other. The two are merely terms applied to two poles of the same thing. Very, very powerful. It is this fact that enables Hermeticists to transmute one mental state into another along the lines of polarization. So we have the principle of polarity, and previously we spoke about mental transmutations. The Hermeticists know that they can change the rate of vibration of the mental state through the mental transmutation from one pole to the other. Take the case of the fearful man. By raising his mental vibrations along the line of fear-courage, he can be filled with the highest degree of courage and fearlessness. And likewise, the slothful man may change himself into active, energetic individual simply by polarizing along the lines of the desired quality. So again, when you understand this principle of polarity, you can raise a lot of your vibrations when you understand this principle of polarization. A knowledge of the existence of this great Hermetic principle will enable the student to better understand his own mental states and those of other people. He will see that these mental states are all matters of degree, and seeing thus, he will be able to raise or lower the vibration at will to change his mental poles, and thus being a master of his mental states instead of being their servant and slave. The principle of polarity is so powerful because if you understand this principle of polarity, everything is a rate of vibration. One pole and the other pole, they're all connected by the same substance. It's all 1 degree to another degree, it's all the same. By using the principle of polarity, we can change from one extreme to the other extreme by using mental transmutation. These are these occult teachings. These are these mysterious teachings that were taught thousands of years ago. And if you can understand this and applies to your life, the world is your oyster. Rhythm. Everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. The pendulum swings, manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is a measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. The Kybalion. The great fifth Hermetic principle, the principle of rhythm, embodies the truth that in everything there is a manifested, a measure of motion, a to and from movement, a flow and inflow, a swing forward and backward, a pendulum-like movement, a tide and ebb and flow, a high tide and a low tide. Between the two poles manifests on the physical and mental and spiritual planes. The principle of rhythm is closely connected with the principle of polarity described in the preceding chapter. Rhythm manifests between the two poles established by the principle of polarity. This does not mean, however, that the pendulum of the swings to the extreme poles, for this it rarely happens. In fact, it is difficult to establish the extreme pole opposites in the majority of cases, but the swing is ever toward the first one pole and then the other. There is always an action and reaction, an advance and retreat, a rise and a sinking, manifested in all the airs and phenomena of life and the universe. Suns and worlds, men, animals, plants, minerals, forces, energy, mind, matter, yes, even spirit manifests this principle. So you have the principle of polarity, you have positive, negative, you have the rates of vibration between them, but through life, everything is always swinging between the two. There's everything, there's correspondence, there's an ebb and flow between life. This is very cool stuff because if you understand this, you recognize that some days you're going to feel good and some days you're going to feel bad. This is the natural ebb and flow of life. Night follows day and day night. The pendulum swings from summer to winter and then back again. There is always a rhythmic swing from one pole to the other. The universe is a pendulum ever in motion. The tides of life flow in and out according to the law. Its manifestations and influence extend to the mental activities of man, and that it accounts for the bewildering succession of moods, feelings, and other annoying, perplexing changes that we notice in ourselves. Again, this rhythm, everything is in rhythm. Your emotions are in rhythm. Your life is in rhythm. Everything has its rhythm. And when you understand this, the seasons of life come into play. This is really good stuff here. The Hermetic masters long since discovered that while the principle of rhythm was invariable and ever in evidence in the mental phenomena, there are two planes of manifestation so far as the mental phenomena are concerned. They discovered that there were two general planes of consciousness, the lower and the higher, the understanding of which fact enabled them to rise to the higher plane and thus escape the swing of the rhythmic pendulum which manifested on the lower plane. This is really cool stuff here. So there's a higher and lower consciousness. The Hermeticists knew they couldn't escape this pendulum of life, the swing of life, the rhythm of life, but by rising to the higher plane of life, they weren't affected by this rhythm. This they call the law of neutralization. Its operations consist in the raising of the ego above the vibrations of the unconscious plane of the mental activity so that the negative swing of the pendulum is not manifested in consciousness and therefore they are not affected. It is akin to rising above the thing and letting it pass beneath you. By rising up your level of consciousness, your vibration up, you're not going to be able to escape this rhythm of life. But what's going to happen is the rhythm's going to happen on the unconscious level. So it's not actually going to affect your life. It's just going to be flowing beneath you, whereas you're standing still. This is very powerful. The Hermetic master or advanced student polarizes himself at the desired pole, and by a process akin to refusing to participate in the backward swing, or if you prefer, the denial of its influence over him, he stands firm. Again, he doesn't allow the rhythm of life to pull him apart. This is very powerful. In his polarized position and allows the mental pendulum to swing back along the unconscious plane. All individuals who have attained any degree of self-mastery accomplish this more or less unknowingly, and by refusing to allow their moods and negative mental states to affect them, they apply the law of neutralization. When we apply this law of neutralization, we're not affected by the environment around us. This is so important. The master or advanced student is able, to a degree, to escape the swing of this pain, but the process of neutralization before mentioned, by raising to the higher plane of the ego, much of the experience that comes to those dwelt on the lower plane is avoided and escaped. So again, by raising your vibes, we talk about good vibes, bad vibes. By raising your vibes, you have the good vibes, all of a sudden the bad vibes disappear. They swing on the unconscious plane. Causation. Every cause has its effect, every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to the law. Chance is but the name for the law not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law, the Kybalion. The great sixth Hermetic principle, the principle of cause and effect, embodies a truth that law pervades the universe, that nothing happens by chance, that chance is merely a term indicating cause existing but not recognized or perceived, that phenomena is continuous without break or exception. So, cause and effect. There is nothing that happens by chance. Everything has happened to this moment. You are where you are today by a series of chains in this connecting link all the way back to the initial cause, which was from the all through this manifestation, through this meditation when it manifested reality. There is always a cause and because to every event. Nothing ever happens without a cause, or rather a chain of causes. As a matter of fact, no thing ever causes or creates another thing. Cause and effect deals merely with events. An event is that which comes, arrives, or happens as a result of a consequence of some preceding event. No event creates another event, but is merely a preceding link in the great orderly chain of events flowing from the creative energy of the all. There is a continuity between all events, precedent, consequent, and subsequent. There is a relation existing between everything that has gone before and everything that follows. So previously, if you heard what we said, we believed that the all was in meditation, and in meditation it created the outline of the universe. And when it awoke from meditation, it manifested a material world. And everything from the beginning of dawn of time has had a series of events to unfold perfectly in order to get you to where you are today. If your great-great-great-great-grandparents didn't connect, you wouldn't be here today. And this is the reality. There is always a cause and effect to everything that's going on in this world. The ancient writers expressed the matter thus: the further the creation is from the center, the more it is bound. The nearer the center it reaches, the nearer free it is. This is good. The majority of people are carried along like falling stone, obedient to environment, outside influences, internal moods, desires, etc. Not to speak of the desires and wills of the others stronger than themselves, hereditary, environment, and suggestion, carrying them along without resistance on their part. or the existence of the will, move like pawns on the checkerboard of life. They play their parts and are laid aside after the game is over. But the masters, knowing the rules of the game, rise above the plane of the material life and placing themselves in touch with the higher powers of their nature, dominate their own moods, characters, qualities, and polarity, as well as the environment surrounding them, and thus become the movers in the game instead of the pawns, causes instead of effects. The masters do not escape the causation of the higher planes, but fall in with the higher laws and thus master circumstances of the lower plane. So again, everything happens because of cause and effect, right? But if you think about the majority of the population, what it's saying here, the majority of the population are pawns. They're getting moved around like chess pieces on a checkerboard or a chessboard. And these people are moved by the masters. And who are the masters? The masters rise themselves to higher planes of existence. They can't escape from the law of causations, but by rising to the higher planes of existence, they're able to become the cause. And by becoming that cause, they can change the effect, which is the condition or the event around them. This is really important to say. So again, we're talking about raising our level of vibration to such a higher plane that we're not influenced by our environment, that we're able to use our willpower to stand strong and become the cause. We're able to become the causer. Gender is the sixth Hermetic principle. Gender isn't everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes, the Kybalion. The word gender is derived from the Latin root meaning to beget, to procreate, to generate, to create, to produce. A moment's consideration will show you that the word has a much broader and more general meaning than the term sex. The latter referring to the physical distinction between the male and female living things. Sex is merely a manifestation of gender on a certain plane of the great physical plane, the plane of the organic life. So if you think about the word gender, gender means to create. Gender is creation. This is really important. In gender, we have masculine and feminine. Masculine and feminine create, they procreate, but it's not just on the physical plane. There are masculine and feminine energies that create on all levels and all planes. So this is about creation. The masculine principle of mind corresponds to the so-called objective mind, conscious mind, voluntary mind, active mind, etc. And the feminine principle of mind corresponds to the so-called subjective mind, subconscious mind, involuntary mind, passive mind, etc. So the conscious is the masculine energy. We use our willpower, our force, and the feminine is our subconscious mind. We receive ideas, etc. The tendency of the feminine principle is always in the direction of receiving impressions, while the tendency of the masculine principle is always in the direction of giving out or expressing. The feminine principle has much more of a varied field of operation than has the masculine principle. The feminine principle conducts the work of generating new thoughts, concepts, ideas, including the work of the imagination. Masculine and feminine energy, we need both to create, very important. The masculine principle contends itself with the work of the will in its various phases, and yet without the active aid of the will of the masculine principle, the feminine principle is apt to rest content with generating mental images, which are the result of impressions received from the outside instead of producing original mental creations. So again, the masculine is the willpower. We use our brute force, that's our conscious mind, whereas the feminine energy is receiving of impressions, ideas. This is important, but we need the both. If we're just sitting there receiving ideas, we sit on the sidelines, we don't do anything. We need someone to implement these ideas, and that is our conscious mind, that is the masculine principle. And within you lies a duality, the masculine and the feminine energy, which is gender, to create. We need them both to create. We use our feminine energy to draw the ideas, but then we use our masculine energy, which is our willpower, to turn those ideas into reality. The strong men and women of the world invariably manifest the masculine principle of the will, and their strength depends materially upon this fact. Instead of living upon the impressions made upon their minds by others, they dominate their own minds by their will. So again, the strong men are the ones who use the masculine principle, so they're not influenced by the outside people. Yeah, obtaining the kind of mental images desired, and moreover dominate the minds of other likewise in the same manner. Look at the strong people, how they manage to implant their seed thoughts in the minds of the masses of the people, thus causing the latter to think thoughts in accordance with the desires and wills of the strong individuals. This is why the masses of people are such sheep-like creatures, never imagining an idea of their own, nor using their own powers of mental activity. The manifestation of mental gender may be noticed all around us in everyday life. The magnetic persons are those who are able to use the masculine principle in a way of impressing their ideas upon others. So, boom, we have a masculine and feminine energy within us. And the feminine energy, if that dominates too much, we're not going to be able to take charge of our lives. We have the masculine and feminine energy. And the strong ones, the masters, the leaders, the founders, the move changers, the people who made a difference in the world, they're the ones who are able to use their force of this masculine energy to impress their ideas, their desires in the world and create those things. And other people fell in line, became like sheep. Falling in line with these people's dreams and visions and ideals is really important. But we can't deny the feminine energy. We can't just go without ideas. We need the ideas, and that is the feminine energy. We need the balance of the both, the masculine and the feminine. But if you lean too far to one stream or the other, you're not going to be able to get anything done. If you're too feminine, you're going to be overpowered by the people around you, and you're not going to be able to use your force to create the life that you want. Hermetic Axioms. The possession of knowledge, unless accompanied by a manifestation and expression in action, is like the hoarding of precious metals, a vain and foolish thing. Knowledge, like wealth, is intended for use. The law is of use is universal, and he who violates it suffers by reason of his conflict with natural forces, the Kybalion. There's no point of obtaining wisdom, truth, or understanding if you're not going to do anything with it. This is very important. You need to take action. To change your mood or mental state, change your vibration, the Kybalion. Very, very important stuff. You change your vibrations through mental transmutation, and you change the outcome. To destroy an undesirable rate of mental vibration, put into operation the principle of polarity and concentrate upon the opposite pole to which that you desire to suppress. Kill out the undesirable change by changing its polarity, the Kybalion. So again, if you're in a mood, in a state, if you've got a condition in your life that is not where you want it to be, change your rate of vibration by focusing the other pole, and by focusing the other pole, you neutralize it and get rid of that state of vibration, that condition. Very powerful axiom. The advanced Hermeticist polarized himself at the positive pole of his being, the I am pole, rather than the pole of personality. And by refusing and denying the operation of rhythm, raised himself above the plane of consciousness, and standing firm in his statement of being, he allows the pendulum of the swing back on the lower plane without changing his polarity. So again, the masters are the ones who raise the level of vibration to this highest level of vibration by using polarity, by using neutralization, by understanding the principles of rhythm. And what happens is the pendulum still swings below them, but it doesn't affect them. So what ends up happening is they start controlling their condition, their environment, their moods, instead of being affected by everything going on around them by raising their vibrations. Nothing escapes the principle of cause and effect, but there are many planes of causation, and one who uses the laws of the higher to overcome the laws of the lower, the Kybalion. Again, by raising our rate of vibration, we can change the effect of the things around us. Really cool. True Hermetic transmutation is a mental art, the Kybalion. In the above axiom, the Hermeticists teach that the great work of influencing one's environment is accomplished by mental power. The universe being wholly mental, it follows that it may be ruled only by mentality. So the all, the spirit, this is a mental creation. The Hermeticists believe this is a mental creation. By changing your mental vibration, you can change the conditions around you. If the universe is mental, then mind must be the highest power affecting its phenomena. If this be understood, then all the so-called miracles and wonder workings are seen plainly for what they are. So again, what you see around you, the beautiful world, the environment, it just is what it is. When we understand that the world is just made up of mind, and we can use our mind and mental transmutation to change the circumstances around us. The all is mind, the universe is mental, the Kybalion. Guys, hope you got value out of that video. That was the Kybalion by the Three Initiates, who was actually written by William Walker Atkinson. If you got value, smash like, hit subscribe, drop a comment down below, and I'll see you again in the next video.